So let us go to the last topic in this chapter, and that's about water. The last portion, that is water. That is a water. Actually, here there is nothing new to study in water. We know the molecular formula of water that is known to us, and it is H2O. We know the structure of water, the bonding in water, that is also known to us. So it is HOH. It's a bent molecule like this, a non-linear molecule or a bent molecule or a V-shaped molecule with a, say, there will be two lone pairs of electrons. Two lone pairs of electrons on the oxygen atom. As we know, in water, oxygen has sp3 hybridization. Oxygen has a sp3 hybridization. And two of the sp3 hybrid orbitals are utilized for sigma bond formation between oxygen and hydrogen. The remaining two sp3 hybrid orbitals contain lone pairs of electrons. Since there is sp3 hybridization, the expected bond angle is 109 degrees 28 minutes, the tetrahedral angle. But the bond angle in water is only, do you remember? The bond angle that is only 104.5 degrees. That is less than the expected bond angle 109 degrees 28 minutes. sp3 hybridization, the expected bond angle is 109 degrees 28 minutes. That's the tetrahedral angle. But here the angle reduces to 104.5 degrees. The reason we know, in water, on the oxygen atom, there are two lone pairs. And as we know, the repulsion between the lone pair, repulsion between lone pair is greater than the repulsion between lone pair, bond pair, which in turn greater than bond pair. And due to this, the bond angle reduces to 104.5 degrees. We have seen this in the chapter chemical bonding. We have seen this structure. Another thing, in water molecule, oxygen is more electronegative than hydrogen. Oxygen is more electronegative than hydrogen. And therefore, the electron pair of the OH bond is shifted towards oxygen, so that oxygen gets a partial negative charge and oxygen gets a partial, hydrogen gets a partial positive charge. Hydrogen, partial positive charge. And oxygen is getting partial negative charge. Oxygen is negative because oxygen is more electronegative than hydrogen. And there is the shifting of electron pair towards oxygen atom. Similarly, you take say another water molecule. Similar is the case here also. Plus, there is minus, here is plus. Okay. So water molecule is, we can say it's a polar molecule. Say polar molecule. Water molecule is a polar molecule. All these are the old stories we have studied in the chapter chemical bonding. We have studied this. Water molecule is a polar molecule with the negative end on the oxygen atom and a positive end on the hydrogen atom. Due to polarity, there is a, say, A weak bond formation between oxygen of one molecule and a hydrogen of another molecule. And that bond, that is called the hydrogen bond. That is called the H bond or hydrogen bond. And due to hydrogen bond, what happens? Water molecules associate, they come closer, and water exists as a liquid at a normal temperature and pressure. It exists as a liquid. For example, take hydrogen sulfide H2S, that is having a higher molecular mass than water, but hydrogen sulfide is a gas, although it is having higher molecular mass than water. H2S is a gas because in H2S there is no hydrogen bonding, there is no association, and the hydrogen sulfide exists as discrete molecules, separate molecules. So hydrogen sulfide is a gas. But in water, as a result of polarity, there is intermolecular hydrogen bonding and association. And therefore, water is having the liquid state. It is in the liquid state with a high boiling point also. High boiling point, that is also due to the association and hydrogen bonding in water. We have seen this. Now, you cool water, then what happens? When water, liquid water is cooled, is cooled, just like all other liquids, here also the volume decreases. Volume, volume decreases. In general, in general, when a liquid is cooled, a liquid is cooled, there is contraction. There is a decrease in volume. Similarly, here also, when water is cooled, the volume decreases. But the decrease in volume is only, it is found to be only up to 4 degrees Celsius. 4 degrees Celsius. So at 4 degrees Celsius, there is minimum volume. The minimum volume, water has minimum volume at 4 degrees Celsius. Normal to say atmospheric temperature, for example, 30 degree or 25 degree, okay. When it is cooled, there is contraction, there is decrease in volume. And this decrease in volume occurs only up to 4 degrees Celsius. Below 4 degrees Celsius, what happens? Say below 4 degrees Celsius, below 4 degrees Celsius, water expands. See, there is expansion. Water expands. Water expands. You know, water solidifies. That is, ice is formed at 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degrees Celsius, as we know, ice is formed. That is a solid state of water. And that is less than 4 degrees. So what happens? Say, when water is cooled below 4 degrees Celsius, there is expansion. That is, volume increases. When volume increases, what happens to density? We know density is equal to mass by volume, that is density. So if there is expansion, that is volume increases, the density decreases. There is a decrease in density. Density decreases. Density decreases. Below 4 degrees Celsius, water expands and the density decreases. So maximum density, water has maximum density at 4 degrees Celsius. At 4 degrees Celsius, there is maximum density for water. Still, it is liquid water, remember, it is liquid state. And this liquid water at 4 degrees Celsius is still cooled to form ice. And during that transformation, change in temperature from 4 degree to 0 degree, there is expansion. Volume increases. And so density decreases. So if we compare the density of liquid water and ice, can see that ice has lower density than ice has a lower density than liquid water. So density of ice, density of ice is less than that of a liquid water, less than liquid water. So ice floats over, ice floats over liquid water. We have seen that when we prepare juice, any juice, lime juice, lemon juice, and if you are adding ice cubes, we have noticed that ice cubes are floating over water. That is because ice has lower density than liquid water. The reason is this: ice has lower density than liquid water because below 4 degrees Celsius, there is expansion. There is expansion. And in ice, there is true tetrahedral structure through hydrogen bonds, and the bond angle expands to 109 degrees 28 minutes. In water, 104.5 degrees. But in ice, there is pakka tetrahedral structure, and the bond angle is 109 degrees 28 minutes. That's why there is expansion. And due to expansion, density of water decreases below 4 degrees Celsius. So ice has lower density than liquid water, and therefore ice crystals float over liquid water. And this helps in the case of, say, aquatic living beings. They are protected. The aquatic living beings are protected by floating ice over water. If the whole water freezes, then the aquatic beings, say fish and all that, they become dead. But if, say, ice floats over water, it acts as a non-conductor of heat, and the water below the ice layer will be still in the liquid state, so that the aquatic living beings can exist there. So it can save what ice can save the aquatic lives. That is one of the applications of the floating of ice on liquid water. Okay, so that's about the structure of water and ice. Now, the last one, that's about soft water and hard water. You have studied soft and hard waters. You have studied this. In the 10th standard, we have studied soft water and hard water. You know, a sample of water which produces immediate lather, form, immediate lather with soap. That's called soft water. So, soft water, it gives, say, immediate lather, or a foam lather with soap. immediate lather with soap. That is a soft water. And that property is called the softness of water. Softness. The production of immediate lather with soap, that's called the softness. Softness. Property is called the softness. And that sample of water is called a soft water. So it immediately produces lather with soap. Then hard water, we have studied that hard water does not produce immediate lather with soap. Hard water, the so-called hard water, does not produce no immediate lather, no immediate lather, sudden formation of foam, immediate lather with soap. Not only that, there will be a formation of a scum, a formation of a scum, formation of a precipitate, a white scum is formed. When say shaken with a soap, when shaken with the soap, say white scum, a white precipitate is formed. If the water sample is hard water, and that property is called hardness, hardness of water. So hardness of water means the property by which the sample of water does not produce immediate lather with soap, and it forms a scum, a precipitate, a solid mass, waxy mass with a soap. That is a hard water. Okay, let me ask you a simple question. A simple question. Here, let me ask you a simple question. Say you are given, Nidhi, please wake up, wake up. Say, Nidhi, no, Emmanuel,
Yes, sir.
okay, come on, wake up, come on. All right, say, you are given two samples of water, and you say sample A and sample B, sample A and sample B, and you are asked, which is soft water and which is hard water. Can you give a simple test? Manuel, can you give a simple test to distinguish between soft water and hard water? He's trying to escape all the time. Rajas, a simple test to distinguish between soft water and hard water. A very simple test. Okay, I shall repeat. Just listen my words. Soft water produces immediate lather with soap. It does not produce any scum with a soap. Clear? Now, hard water does not produce immediate lather with soap. It produces a scum precipitate, a scum with soap. Is it clear? Now, the question is this. How can you identify a sample of a soft water from hard water? Come on, a simple test. Can you hear me or not? Rajas,
Yes, sir.
then tell me,
Uh,
test. Please don't say, try to give, go away. You just wait there. Listen the words again. I am repeating this for you only now. Soft water produces immediate lather, ready lather with soap. While hard water does not produce immediate lather with soap. Hard water gives a scum, a precipitate with soap. Is it clear to you, Rajas? Clear?
yes, sir.
Now my question is this. You are given two samples of water. One is soft water, other is hard water. Suggest a simple test to distinguish between these two.
uh, when we add soap to that water,
Oh,
if lather is produced, it is soft water.
yes. If an immediate lather is produced with the soap, that is soft water. If immediate lather is not produced, but you get a scum, then it is a hard water. It's a very simple test. Okay. And that is the expected answer. You will get the answer. You try. You try. That's because you are not trying. That's we are not getting the answer. The answer is there with you. It is there with you. You search it. You find it where the answer is kept in you. It is stored. It is stored in your brain computer. It is there. It is there in your memory. You search in the brain computer. It is there. You search it properly. You are not searching it. Now you searched it. It took time, so right. Now you have got the answer. This is the thing. Okay. So soft water and hard water. Okay. Now let us go back to hard water again. Now, what's the reason for the hardness of water? We have studied in the 10th standard. The reason for hardness. Reason for hardness of water. Hardness. You know, hard water contains dissolved salts of calcium and magnesium. There will be calcium and magnesium salts. Hard water, hard water contains calcium and magnesium salts. Soap is what you know what it is. What it is? Soap is sodium or potassium salt or higher fatty acids, higher aliphatic acids or fatty acids, stearic acid, etc. Higher fatty acids, sodium salt or potassium salt of a higher carboxylic acids, fatty acids, the, the acids present in fats and oils, they are fatty acids. They are carboxylic acids. For example, stearic acid. One example for soap is sodium, sodium stearate. Sodium stearate. An example for soap. Sodium stearate. Sodium salt of stearic acid. Sodium stearate. Sodium palmitate. Sodium oleate. Sodium laurate. All this. So soaps are sodium or potassium salts of higher fatty acids. Okay. When such a soap, sodium salt or a potassium salt, is mixed with a hard water containing calcium and magnesium salts, what happens? Calcium and magnesium salts, calcium and magnesium salts, magnesium salts, they react with the soap. They react with the soap with the formation of a calcium or magnesium soap. Calcium or magnesium soap is formed. And that is the scum produced. The scum, the precipitate is calcium soap, calcium stearate or magnesium soap, magnesium stearate. So when soap, sodium or potassium salt of a higher fatty acids is mixed with hard water containing calcium and magnesium ions. Calcium and magnesium salts react with soap with the formation of a precipitate or a scum, which is calcium or magnesium soap that is precipitated. Soap is precipitated as calcium soap, calcium stearate, for example, or a magnesium soap, magnesium stearate. That is why the foam the froth is not produced. For the production of a foam or froth, there should be stearate ion. The stearate ion should be there in what? In water, there should be stearate ion. But the stearate ion is precipitated. Soap is precipitated. That's why froth is not produced. So the reason for hardness, what is the reason for hardness? That is calcium and magnesium salts. Dissolved calcium and magnesium salts. Then hardness can be classified into temporary hardness, and permanent hardness. Temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Temporary hardness is removed when it is boiled. When boiled, temporary hardness that is removed. Temporary hardness is removed. That is removed by boiling, by simply boiling. Simply boiling, temporary hardness can be removed. But permanent hardness not removed. It is not removed by simply boiling. By boiling, permanent hardness cannot be removed. But temporary hardness can be removed by boiling. Let us see what the reason for temporary hardness. Temporary hardness is due to the calcium and magnesium hydrogen carbonates. Calcium hydrogen carbonate soluble in water. Magnesium hydrogen carbonate soluble in water. So the hydrogen carbonates or bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium, these are responsible for temporary hardness. Still remember, bicarbonate is not the reason for hardness. Calcium and magnesium ions are responsible for hardness. So calcium and magnesium hydrogen carbonates are responsible for temporary hardness. While the permanent hardness that is due to calcium and magnesium chlorides and sulfates. Calcium chloride, calcium sulfate, magnesium chloride, magnesium sulfate. And these are the reason for a permanent hardness. And these are the reason for temporary hardness. So temporary hardness, calcium and magnesium hydrogen carbonates. While permanent hardness, calcium and magnesium chlorides and sulfates. I repeat, chloride and sulfate are not responsible for hardness. Hydrogen carbonate is not responsible hardness. Hardness is solely due to calcium and magnesium ions. There may be other heavy metal ions also, iron, etc. will be there. Commonly, calcium and magnesium ions. So, hardness can be classified into two types, temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Temporary hardness due to hydrogen carbonates of calcium and magnesium, while permanent hardness due to chlorides and sulfates of calcium and magnesium. Temporary hardness, Emmanuel, temporary hardness can be removed by boiling, while permanent hardness cannot be removed by boiling. Emmanuel, now let me ask you a simple question. You are given two samples of hard water. Two samples of hard water. Emmanuel, do you hear me? Two
Yes,
samples
sir.
of hard water are given to you. One is temporary hard water, the other is a permanent hard water. How can you easily distinguish between these two? A simple test. You give a simple test to distinguish between temporary hardness and permanent hardness. A simple test. Come.
Temporary hardness can be removed by boiling.
Yes, that is the answer. Yes, that's the answer. Temporary hardness can be removed by boiling. So that sample is a temporary hard water. Permanent hardness cannot be removed by boiling. And so that is permanent hard water. Okay. That's a simple test to distinguish between temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Okay. Now, temporary hardness is removed by boiling. Why? Because, say, when heated, boiled, calcium hydrogen carbonate decomposes. It decomposes forming calcium carbonate plus H2O plus CO2. CO2. So there is a precipitation of a calcium carbonate. So calcium is removed. Calcium is precipitated as calcium carbonate. Similarly, magnesium hydrogen carbonate, that is decomposed into magnesium hydroxide precipitate plus carbon dioxide. So when boiled, the bicarbonates are decomposed. Calcium hydrogen carbonate is decomposed, precipitating calcium carbonate. It is removed from the water sample. Similarly, magnesium hydrogen carbonate is decomposed, precipitating magnesium hydroxide. So calcium is precipitated as calcium carbonate, and magnesium is precipitated as magnesium hydroxide. That is what is happening when temporary hard water is boiled. Now, what are the other methods to remove hardness? Both the temporary and permanent hardness. Temporary can be easily removed by simply boiling, that's right. But we can make use of some chemicals to remove both the temporary hardness and permanent hardness. So let us think of those two methods also. Removal of hardness. Removal of hardness of water. Hardness of water. We know hardness of water is due to the dissolved calcium and magnesium ions. Calcium and magnesium ions are responsible for the hardness of water. So by some means or other, we have to remove calcium and magnesium ions from the solution, from the soluble type, it is to be removed. One of the process is the Calgon process. It's called a Calgon process. Calgon process. Removal of hardness. You can use this for both temporary as well as a permanent hardness. Removal of both the temporary and permanent hardness. Calgon process. Here we have to make use of Calgon. Calgon. What is Calgon? Calgon is, that is a sodium hexametaphosphate. Sodium hexa metaphosphate. That is called Calgon. So what is Calgon? Calgon is sodium hexametaphosphate. It is a NaPO3 6 times. And the actual structure is Na2, Na4, PO3 6 times, and here there is a complex. Say what is given in the square bracket, that remains as a complex ion. This is a complex ion. Na4, PO3 6 times, a complex ion. And this complex ion has -2 charge. Sodium is a +1 charge, +1, that we know. Sodium is a +1, charge is a +1, that is known to us. Sodium is a +1, while the complex ion Na4 PO3 6 times -2. Okay. When Calgon is added, this chemical, sodium hexametaphosphate or a Calgon is added, calcium and magnesium ions will react with the complex ion. the complex ion. So Na4, PO3, PO3 6 times, and the charge is -2, -2, -2. So this complex ion, and this reacts with the calcium or magnesium ion, say M+2 ion. M is CO+2, yeah, Ca+2, or Mg+2. And what will happen here? Say two of the sodium ions are replaced. Two of the sodium ions are replaced from the complex. Na2, M, PO3, PO3 6 times. PO3 6 times -2 plus 2Na plus. Say this complex is formed. And in this complex, M is equal to either calcium or magnesium. Magnesium. So calcium and magnesium ions are trapped. They are trapped in the complex. They are trapped. These are soluble complexes. They are trapped as a soluble complexes. And these soluble complexes cannot react with the soap. Say the calcium or magnesium ion is entrapped within the complex, soluble complex. From that soluble complex, we will not get a calcium or magnesium ions to react with the soap. So the calcium and magnesium ions are blocked. They are entrapped, forming soluble complexes. And the process is called sequestration. It is called sequestration. QUE. Sequestration. Sequestration means the blocking process. It is called a sequestration. That is blocked, trapping, or blocking, prevention. That is the sequestration. So calcium and magnesium ions are sequestrated. That is sequestration. They are blocked as soluble complexes. And the soluble complex cannot react with the soap. The process is called the sequestration process. Okay, sequestration. So Calgon process. The term Calgon is coming from cal for calcium, gone for gone. Calcium is gone, and hence the name Calgon. Calcium is gone, and hence the name Calgon. It is not only for calcium, it is equally applicable to magnesium also. So in the Calgon process, hard water is made to react with the sodium hexametaphosphate. Then the calcium and magnesium ions are made into soluble complexes. From the soluble complex, it cannot react with the soap. And the process is called the sequestration process. Sequestration means some kind of a trapping process, blocking process, preventing process, sequestration process. Let us take one more method. And it is called the synthetic resin process. Synthetic resin, resin process. This is the modern process used for the removal of hardness. Synthetic resin process. Yes, resin is a polymer. It's a polymer. So synthetic resin is a synthetic polymer. Large molecule we have seen. It's a polymer, synthetic polymer, large molecule. And it will be having either sulfonic acid group or there will be hydroxide group also. There are two types of resins, two types of synthetic resins. One is called cation exchange, cation exchange resin. The other is called anion exchange resin. Two types of resins, two types of synthetic polymers. Cation exchange resin and anion exchange resin. Two types of synthetic resins, synthetic polymers used in the removal of hardness of water. And what we have to do? Hard water is first. There is a hard water that is first passed through cation exchange resin. Cation exchange resin. There is a tall tower, a tower in which uh, it is filled with a cation exchange resin. Cation exchange resin. And in this cation exchange resin, all types of cations, calcium, magnesium, sodium, whatever cations are there, all the cations, all types of cations are trapped. Cations are exchanged. All types of cations, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, whichever ions are there, all the ions are exchanged with H plus ions. H plus ions present in the cation exchange resin. So first, hard water is passed through cation exchange resin tower, and in which all types of cations, not only calcium and magnesium, all types of cations, metallic ions, are exchanged with H plus ions. Then it is passed through another tower, and it is filled with anion exchange resin, anion exchange resin. And here what happens? Here, all types of anions, here all types anion, say chloride, sulfate, hydrogen carbonate, all types of anions. All the types of anions are exchanged. All types of anions are exchanged or blocked in this tower. Exchanged with OH minus ions. Anions are exchanged with OH minus ions. Finally, water coming out will not be having any type of ion, cation or anion. Only H plus ion and OH minus ion will be there. And these two ions will be reacting, forming water. So we get a pure water only. Cations are blocked, prevented in the cation exchange resin tower. Then anions are blocked or exchanged in the anion exchange resin tower. And finally we get water which does not contain any type of ion. There will not be any cation or anion. There will be only pure water. And water containing, say, only water. There is no other cation or anion. That sample of water, that is called demineralized water. Demineralized water or deionized water. All types of ions are removed. Cation and anion both are removed. And so it's called deionized water or demineralized water. And it is 100% pure water. And this method is suitable for the removal of all types of ions. Okay, anion and cation also. There is a small point that is heavy water. Heavy water. Heavy water is deuterium oxide D2O. Heavy water, deuterium oxide D2O. And it is prepared from ordinary water by exhaustive electrolysis of water. The exhaustive electrolysis, continuous electrolysis of pure water. Ordinary water, not the pure water, ordinary water, by the continued electrolysis of ordinary water. When electrolyzed H2O decomposes in preference to D2O, and hence we get D2O, deuterium oxide or heavy water. Regarding the uses, it is used as a moderator in atomic reactors. Moderator in atomic reactors. Atomic reactors. Second, it is used in the reaction mechanism studies. Study of a reaction mechanism. Study of a reaction mechanism. Study of a reaction mechanism. So very important use. Moderator in atomic reactors. In atomic reactors, there is fission reaction, nuclear fission reaction. And the fission is effected by the bombarding with the neutrons. The fissionable material, uranium or polonium, that is bombarded with the neutrons. And moderator is a substance used to slow down the neutrons so that we can control the fission reaction. We can control the fission reaction by slowing down the neutrons, and such substances are called moderators. So heavy water, deuterium oxide, D2O, is used as a moderator in the atomic reactors. And so it finishes hydrogen, water, and hydrides also. I have, okay.